I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and with me today is Belgian Carcassonne master, chess author, and fellow content creator Raf Mesotten, also known as Craft Giraffe. Hi Raf, great to have you here. We may be having a bit of a connection issue. Can you hear me, Raf? Wait, that's interesting. So maybe we're gonna get back on track soon enough. In the meantime, I'm gonna get the intro, and I'm sure we're gonna fix the sound a little bit later. So we're gathered here for the semifinals of the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship. That is the reigning world champion Team Japan are going to try and defend their title against the ever-rising Team Ukraine. And to do a proper intro, Raf and I are going to look at some stats about these two teams that I've gathered. I'm gonna get them on the screen shortly. Just need to move some stuff around a little bit. So there we have it. As you can see, Japan has already 3 world titles. In fact, the only time they did not win the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship was in 2023 when China had the honor. They won every other... Wait, no, they won 4 times. Okay, this is not a great start. Because I already made a mistake in the stat. Of course, they won 4 times because I didn't count in 2020 as the inaugural edition, but it's actually is absolutely a thing. Yeah, so they won 4 times out of 5, most recently in 2024. Ukraine has never been this close to a title. In fact, prior to this year, they had never been in the semifinals, and they had never been in the quarterfinals either. So this campaign is already historic for them. But more interestingly is that if you look just at the ratings, which is one of the metrics of strength of players, then Ukraine has to be the favorite in this match with a whopping of 720 rating points per average if you look at across all the 5 players that have been lined up. And that is really just a completely monstrous rating. Is probably a record. So for our newer viewers, the threshold for master is 700, and they are even above that as a team on average. Ukraine has lined up their best players pretty much. Now we can see that a lawyer, that's Yaroslav Herasimenko, is benched, who's rated currently 690 at the moment. So technically they did not line up one of their highest rated players, but I do believe that they've lined up 5 players who are the truly best. Who these are, you can see, I guess, on the screen somewhere, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later when we see them close up and look at each player individually. For Japan, they have lined up most of their base players, but we have surprising omissions. The former captain of Team Japan, Pyro, is not playing. One of the few players who has been close to the 800 rating threshold, who's currently rated 654, and another Japanese master, ATRT, who's rated 641. So 4 masters on Japanese lineup. And as for their previous performance in the tournament, it has been similar so far. Almost without losses. Japan lost to the United States in the group stage, and Ukraine lost to Team Thailand in the group stage, and then they have been unbeatable ever since. So based on these stats, Raf, I'm just going to first of all double check if we have the audio back. Do you think that Ukraine is the favorite because of their rating, or do you think that Japan is favorite because of their history and experience? We do? Yeah, we indeed have lost Raf, surprisingly. So we're going to be fixing that over the course of the next few minutes, but I'm going to start the commentary, but at some point we're gonna have our duo back on track. So we're going to find out Raf's opinion about this a little bit later. My opinion, of course, I'm going to stay as neutral as possible. I'm going to say that is going to be a toss-up between the two, although like the numbers don't lie. Ukraine is going to be the favorite here. I do believe that ratings are the best predictor. Not the only predictor, but a very good predictor of success. So let's look at the individual players right now and pick the pair of players that we're going to watch most closely. So on table 1 for the Ukrainians, we have the main source of the highest rating. That is one of the, I think, the highest rated player on Board Game Arena at the moment with the screen name Adrear. That is Kirill Manikov, a well-known theorist who also has been a special guest in my studio as well. Yeah, wait. Let me just fix something. Yeah. Now it is, yes. There we go.
Okay. It seems to be a little bit unstable. I don't know why, but let's hope it will be good for the rest of the stream.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right probably. So I'm going to introduce the players briefly, and we're going to need to jump right in. So saying that Adrear is going to be the favorite on table 1 against Shud, who is currently their captain. Of course, a master player, very experienced, has already world titles to his name. He has been part of 2 Japanese teams that have been the world champion. On table 2, however, it's the Japanese grandmaster, I'm going to say Yguru, who's going to be favored against Alexander Nosik with the screen name Fan Alex. And not just because of the rating difference, I think that Fan Alex is an exceptionally strong player. It's just his open style is going to be a bit inconvenient for him against Ygur's more closed and reserved positioning. On table 3, the Ukrainian player, the fastest Ukrainian player with the screen name Smile Hyphen, is going to be quite a massive favorite against the only non-master, against the only expert on the Japanese team with the screen name Yguru Traps. Traps, of course, referring to a well-known Japanese Carcassonne club, of which we have a couple of members in the broader Japanese roster. Smile Hyphen is Eugene Lepeha, with whom I had the pleasure of playing in the first round of the playoffs, and he is not only fast, but he's also very precise, has a very greedy style, prioritizes quick points, and puts so much time pressure on his opponent that it will be difficult to deal with, for Yguru to deal with the clock pressure as well as the game pressure. So I would expect table 3 to be won by Ukrainians, and so for this one, we're maybe not going to follow it that much. Tables 4, Maxim Basiluk, currently in top shape, rated 744, is going to be favored against the former Japanese captain with the screen name Snow Island. Just because, well, not really just the rating difference, but it's a hunch that I have, knowing both of these players' style, that are going to be a bit inconvenient for Snow Island. So it seems to me that the game will mainly be decided on table 5 between the Japanese master Yguru and the captain of the Ukrainians, Sergei Zaharenko, with the screen name Zaharik. So it should really be between tables 1 and table 5 that we should watch. Raf, if your mic is still working, so do you have a slight preference for table 1 or table 5?
No preference. You can hop right into one of the games.
Alrighty, then let's start with Adrear. The reason for this is because even though I think Duel 5 is a bit the most interesting, I feel like I've given already Guru Y a lot of attention in previous streams, and just try to watch other Japanese team members for a change. So, Shud is playing here with the red meeples. Adrear's playing his traditional blue already. There's an early farmer on the board right over here, so far for 3 points, but eventually this monastery could be completed, expanding the field to epic proportions. Even if it doesn't, then the field is going to be expanded over here, including this here city, which is why should places a real yellow farmer, a red farmer here immediately to equalize. And we have a rather even position where the Japanese player is ahead on the scoreboard. He also gets himself a second monastery. But if Kirillov can draw this second remaining road monastery and just avoid should completing a big 9-point monstrosity over here, then Blue's position is going to be pretty good because of his long-term meeple advantage.
Yeah, indeed. And Blue is really hoping to get that monastery, like you said, to avoid Red from gaining 9 easy points and returning his road monastery meeple. So Red is really hoping to get that monastery, and as soon as possible, really, to get that meeple back as soon as possible. On the other hand, I can see maybe an interesting big city that Red can make while finishing his monastery, or pre-finishing. It's not yet good to place a meeple there if he gets the tile, but first maybe try to close that city from one side, like this indeed. Players are placing tiles quickly. Blue can finish now a nice big city, but also while doing that, he added 3 times 1 point to Red's monastery.
Of course, the net gain here is still mostly for Blue. This city was worth 12 points. This monastery is going to score only 9 when it is completed, but an extra perk to this monastery is this 6-point farmer here for should. First of all, it's a good farmer of its own right because it's already 2 completed cities. Then there are going to be some opportunities for further expansion, but it also truly maximizes the value of the potential road monastery that should could draw. Not only he's going to free up his meeple and score 9 additional points for this monastery, he's also going to invade the main field over here and win this field with a 2 versus 1 majority.
Yeah, and the meeple Blue just placed, very interesting, a 6-point city indeed. Was it a good idea to meeple the road maybe, or is it too adventurous?
The road, I think, is a little bit much because the purpose of the road is just basically to have a bit of compensation in case should get this here road monastery. But that compensation, because, you know, then Blue would get this 4-point road and get his meeple back. But if that were to happen, then I feel that these 4 points are not enough of a compensation. And then just by having a temporary meeple majority, Kirillov can achieve a little bit more. And this is exactly what he appears to be aiming for, although the meeple majority is going to not happen as one of his cities gets already blocked. It, of course, gets blocked for a solid 7 points and an opportunity to expand a bit later. Still, it doesn't feel great if you're a Ukrainian fan, because in an open position like this, and if the monastery, which Kirillov just drew, if that were to happen to be in Shud's hands, then these 7 points would actually not be enough to compensate the loss of a meeple. But since the monastery is very quickly, with a huge tile of relief, drawn by Kirillov, then we're suddenly equal in meeples. This red guy is trapped for 8. This blue guy is trapped for 7, and we have a completely balanced position.
Exactly, and taking 3 points here seems good to me. Although Red can now, of course, try to finish the city while also meepling the field. But not with this tile, of course. Blocking of any field invasion here.
Which puzzles me. Because why would you want to block that field invasion if it's so small with 6 points? Especially considering the fact that now that the second road monastery has drawn, then there will be no way to penetrate with this farmer into the big field. And one other thing that I don't like one bit about this move is that it kills off the backdoor option of taking a lot of road tiles and going to the shared field over here, all the way around. It might seem like a long route, but there's so many road tiles remaining. There are 4 straight lines. There are 5 curves at the time of the move. So it was actually possible for red to go all the way around and still reclaim the majority on the field, but now sort of red killed off this option by his own accord.
Yeah, but maybe the intention was not only to block that field, but also to secure the monastery meeple a little bit, hoping to find the last tile to finish the monastery before blue can block it. But of course, blue found the perfect tile to continue the game.
Not only is he starting a new city and taking advantage of the shielded tile, forcing Should to spend another meeple on neutralization over here, he's also pausing an additional threat for this square, the very monastery that blue was trying to protect. That red was trying to protect, sorry.
Exactly, and now as blue, do you continue your city maybe, because this is a shielded tile, or do you take your road meeple back to have a meeple advantage and make it easier maybe to block red's monastery? What do you think?
I think that we do neither, and in this case we deviate from Kirillov's usual aggressive style, and we actually go here and do a partial block of this monastery. Because, yeah, and Kirillov, it's an unpleasant move. He doesn't want to waste the shielded tile, but it is a very strong move indeed. Because there's so many road tiles that can give Should a meeple back and a meeple advantage. With this here move, leaving only 2 tiles, it's a severe delay. It's already 25% chance that this monastery is never going to see a light of day. And then after that, Kirill is going to have an easy problem to follow up his block by getting a curve, finishing a road, and naturally creating another blocking platform.
Yeah, well spotted indeed. I missed that one. That's not always a move that I quickly can find in my own games, because I want to score points myself first, but sometimes you have to take a step back and just avoid the other player from scoring or prevent it. And now blue tries to invade the main field. We can call it the main field because it will have at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 big or finished cities in it in the end of the game. So really quite some potential there. But blue is investing his last meeple there. And do you agree? Would you invest your last meeple there too, or would you have done something else?
I like the investment of the last meeple in theory. I'm not sure if the timing is right for this move exactly. Maybe there was another opportunity to go here, for example, and just to make Shud's city a bit more vulnerable and then invest a farmer on the next move. But the concept of investing the last meeple is not dangerous at all here. We can see that first of all, Adrear successfully connects to the field, and then he has 3 places where he can recover a meeple really, really safely with one of the 7 remaining crossroads over here, with one of the 15 or so remaining city caps, and then a curve comes to liberate the road and create a blocking platform against over here. Should chooses to threaten the completion of his city. Adrear, of course, now absolutely must thwart it. There are way too many Dorito tiles remaining, and now he's forced to reinvest his last meeple again to try and do something about this. Should now gets himself a double city cap, and he has an excellent move available for him given the fact that Adrear does not have meeples. I'm pretty sure that many of viewers are gonna find this. There's this indirect defense idea, making it harder for Adrear to block this monastery fully. Yeah, and of course he finds it. It also sets up some nastiness. 4 points over here and 8 points if the starting tile is drawn. In the meantime, Adrear completes his road, getting back to meeple equality. Should gives each side a meeple back by completing a shared city in his field. Now this farmer is worth 9 points. It is justified the meeple investment. Blue connect his little farmer to the shared farm at the bottom. Now it is a 12-point farmer, 4 completed cities with a 2 versus 1 majority. Blue is being dominant here. Blue is also dominant on the scoreboard. And now that he has successfully blocked this monastery. It looks like it's a really, really good position for the Ukrainian, despite the fact that he has a trap meeple here and a severely impaired meeple over here.
Yeah, exactly. Very hard, rough situation here from blue. At this point in the game, I would count the points. Certainly, if I'm blue, just to have a look at what can I do to have a comeback. I can see a 9-point field at the top that can be invaded. Certainly because I have 2 meeples, and that's what he also does. On the other hand, he does it with a nice tile to score some quick points, which is not always very good to do. And Alexey places a question mark. Can you explain why?
I do place a question mark. I don't like this move from Kirillov one bit, not only because of the 2-point sacrifice that he's making. Like, this field is not super important, but also because you need to prepare the field invasion first. And it was first important to take care of the threat that Shud has. So you see, the thing that I feared most from Kirillov's perspective happened. That Red was able to finish a city and drop a second farmer, kind of making this here invasion pointless. Maybe it's not so pointless after Adrear, I think, drew the best tile in the deck. I think it's the only blocking tile available for him. Yeah, it was actually an extremely fortunate pull. It is the only tile that he could draw that would fully block the invasion of this red farmer. So now Shud is in trouble again. However, Red can still hope to get a bunch of road tiles and go around over here. So I wonder if Adrear chooses to do something like this right now and try to block this here square in advance, not even allowing Shud the hope of going for this route. Of course, taking the advantage of the fact that all 6 dagger tiles are already on the board. So blocking all kinds of features is very, very easy in this position. But Adrear instead makes a move which I don't like one bit again. He's dropping a city cap in his farms, which then makes sense, of course. But this negative side effect of this move is that it allows a very easy invasion platform for Shud. And I wonder if this opens a window of opportunity for the Japanese player.
Yeah, maybe he missed the fact. He was thinking, okay, there is no city cap left that fits there to have an invasion of the field. But of course, you can go through the field of the splitter tile. And that's the way to go, indeed. Maybe he will correct that move later. In the meantime, Blue is securing or trying to secure the invasion of the big city at the right. I think there's still one tile left that fits there. He really is hoping to get that one. And while I'm counting the points, maybe you can have a look at or have some thoughts about what tiles are left and how do you see the winning plan here for Blue?
Well, interestingly, I don't think that the tiles remaining are that important. Well, now we do know, I mean, the tiles are always important, but I don't see any particular critical tile that would occur, other than, of course, the one cow tile that you mentioned that goes over here. This would give Blue some 6 points for connecting the 2 cities, and of course an opportunity to drop another insurance farmer for 6 further points. Then there are multiple invasion platforms next to this field, so maybe this is also a reason why Kirillov didn't see this as much of a problem, since this field already was vulnerable from a bunch of other sides, and he's creating even more invasion platforms, which now makes it super, super easy to invade with a curve, something that Shud could do right now. But he doesn't. Instead, Shud goes for this invasion, this multi-step invasion at the top that I was always talking about, something that Kirillov could have prevented with this here tile. So we're going to see in a second if Blue draws something to thwart the greatest menace of all, a 2-tile sequence that would allow red additional 9 points by turning his 3-point farmer into a 12-point farmer and eating up this here guy. Yeah, so I think for blue, what we need to do, we just need to be patient with the fields. We need to deny the invasion of this red here guy, and we need to make sure that either we deny red the invasion of the main farm at the bottom, or we reinvade as soon as red himself. And then, of course, ideally, it would be nice to draw this here key tile to connect to the city and drop a farmer over here. And based off red's monasteries, I kind of start thinking that this is becoming close to necessary, especially that should now takes 3 extra points and now is 1 tile away from completing this farm invasion. So this here move will be deeply, deeply regretted by Kirillo, but the critical tile has been drawn so far. He has scored 6 points for sharing the city and drops yet another farmer and gets a 6 point over here. So it's a better position for Kirillo now, but red is 1 tile away from connecting over here, and I do believe that there's at least 1 curve remaining. There's 1 curve remaining exactly, and 1 crossroads as well, so almost guaranteed connection. Should now with the monastery and 5 minutes to solve this endgame. Excellent time management actually from the Japanese player. He can now either start scoring and go for 5 points, assuming that his monasteries should outrun these here ruins, together with, of course, his scoreboard lead. Or if he feels that tying the bottom field is necessary, he could try and go over here. But then, since he has already multiple road tiles needed, first of all, to connect his hypothetical bottom farmer and then his top farmer, and then also deny Adrear this reconnection at the bottom, it feels like the monastery is the most intuitive move, which this is exactly what we see from the Japanese captain here. And Kirillo with a straight line cannot do nothing much. I presume just a 5-point road and brace for impact.
Yeah, exactly. Red has the better position here. I like the 5-point monastery. Blue can go for a 5-point road move, but I don't think it will be enough, especially not if red connects at the top. And red will also hope to connect the fields at the bottom, although I don't think that's still possible in case he gets the curve to connect at the top. There's also a 6-point field, of course, and that's 1 point better than a 6 or 5-point road. I prefer to take that field now already, because what would you do else with your what else would you do with your meeple? Only 1 tile is remaining.
Well,
should connect 1 point to their monastery.
Or the question is, do we spend the meeple as should? Because the 2 last remaining tiles should be a curve and a crossroads unless I have severely miscounted. And this means actually should is guaranteed this here field connection. And if he gets a crossroad, it might actually be more precise for him to do something like this, or like this, or like this even, and even take the points. Actually, no, actually, I think what you're saying is right, Rav. Just 1 point over here, then enjoy this here connection. This is exactly what he does. So Adrear is fortunate enough to draw the curve, which means that should will need to use a crossroads over here and score 2 points for a road instead of 3 points for a road. And of course, no real opportunity to benefit from this tile for Kirillo. So any move is pretty much valid, something that isn't directly counterproductive. And the last curve has been drawn, the last curvy tile, the crossroads rather. 2 quick points for should, and the connection to the top farm, and I believe a victory for the Japanese player.
I think so too, indeed. It will be a victory with, I guess, 5 to 10 points.
something like this. So this means that the invasion of the field at the top was crucial. Again, something that could have been prevented with this here tile. So if there's one move that Kirillov will need to look back on, it's that one. Of course, all those wonderful field points are scored in 7-point loss. It has to be really, really painful for Kirillov from having a good position, from winning the coin flip for the decisive road monastery, winning the coin flip for this here, but then possibly overlooking the idea of should invading with multiple road tiles and how dangerous that was. Yeah, these farming connections with multiple roads, it's something that is very often underestimated. This sort of board vision and invasions with back-to-back 2 or 3 or even 4 tiles is something, for example, that the 2019 world champion Marian Kurkan is exceptionally good at. And of course, Kirillov has studied his games as well. Just, it's an opportunity that I think is easier to notice when you are the one who's trying to do it. It's a bit harder to notice when your opponent has that opportunity.
Exactly, because when you are the one that has to do it, you will find a way to do it, or search for a way to do it. And when you are the opponent, when you're behind in points, you think, how can I come back? And that's not always by blocking off features of your opponent, because that doesn't score you immediate points, although it would have mattered here.
Indeed. In the meantime, just a quick hello to Nico. Hi Helge. Hi Elias. Hi Yaroslav. We're going to be headed in the second game right away, as Kirillov will be trying to come back in this one. Still rated above 800, but no longer at his peak of 817. He is the starting player here, so a blue meeple is going to be placed somewhere promptly. And we're starting with a rather tense position, one which is very good stylistically for the Japanese players. And already Kirillov, I think, makes a move which I don't like, and we're going to talk about this in a couple of seconds. But for starters, only 3 points for Adrear, 0 points for Should, and several blue meeples in vulnerable positions. And interestingly, that blue chose not to use this here tile to resolve one of his more vulnerable positions and possibly pre-build a road going through his city. Instead, he chose to finish his road, which makes total sense. The part where I profoundly disagree is leaving the shielded tile unmeepled, and we can see immediately how Should take advantage of it by placing a meeple himself.
Yes, indeed. I was also surprised by that move. I would have done the thing that you suggested, place it at the left, continuing or adding 2 points to my city, rebuilding a 4-point road. That would be very nice, because now you can see the city is building up quite quickly and you have to invade here, but it's not ideal, although he is putting some pressure on the road of his opponent.
And now the position is opening up and changing in many ways in any case. Despite Should taking advantage of the shielded tile, Adrear sort of kind of manages to invade, now invest his last meeple again to start a new city. As you said, this road of Should is becoming a little bit more vulnerable, but Should has an 8-point city waiting to happen. Adrear has a road which can be resolved with 1 crossroads. This here road is not getting resolved anytime soon, so that's a big issue in the position. But the best part for Kirillov, of course, is this 7-point monastery. This is just beyond beautiful for him. Unfortunately for our Ukrainian fans, a road end tile comes pretty quickly back to Shud's hand. So now that this city is shared, Red will be able to bounce with his meeple advantage, and with any city tile possibly try to invade from here or from here and conquer a sizable ruin or even a large completable city with a 2 versus 1 majority.
Yeah, Blue's position is looking rough, to be honest. Luckily, he has one meeple back now to, for example, to place it on a new monastery or to finish some cities here and there. But like you are saying, Red will invade the city here, I think, blocking or restricting the Blues' road a little bit. Or is he waiting for a better tile to do so? No, I don't think so. He indeed attacks the big city like he should. I think that's already, let's see, 12 points for that city.
And even more with the shielded tile. Now, of course, it is going to get blocked, so Adrear is going to avoid the disaster scenario, but at the very least, should and can build up it over here, so it's an absolutely worthy investment of a meeple. But Adrear is now getting his meeple attacked left and right. Now uses road tile to protect over here, uses the road tile to protect over here. So he used now 3 valuable straight lines for different purposes, and I've called them valuable because he really needs a straight line over here first to consolidate the monastery and create the completion of the monastery with another monastery. These 6-point spots next to your monastery are super important to create when you're short on meeples. So when you do get another monastery, you don't need to spend your last meeple. But unfortunately for the Ukrainian, a starting tile is drawn, and is adding a couple of points to Adrear's road, but most importantly, blocking the blue meeple for just 3 points. That very meeple which could have been saved by these here tiles about 15 moves ago.
Yeah, very rough position for blue here. Do you even try to save your road here? No, it's not a good idea, I think, in the middle of the board. Instead, he is pre-building his own monastery, creating an 8-point or 9-point in a few seconds coin flip for the monastery. I think that's the right thing to do as blue here when you're at a meeple disadvantage. You can take your meeple back immediately and score 8 additional points, or 9 in fact. While as red, you have already a monastery at the right, bottom right. When you get a new one, you just build your other monasteries, I suppose. Or maybe you can even go for the greedier move, and also the downside of that move is that you will give blue their monastery meeple back. What would you do here if you had a monastery as red?
Oh, as red being in the lead, I definitely go over here, just because I feel that my position is good enough that I want to reduce variance. But for now, it's still a hypothetical, as none of the 3 remaining monasteries in the deck has been drawn. So 29 tiles remaining, so 10% chance of somebody drawing a monastery on their very next move. In the meantime, players exchange natural moves with the cities, as should start a new city at the bottom. Adrear finally saves one of his vulnerable meeples and can probably now think about investing one into a fight for ruin. There's now only one, well, there's actually 2 platforms, but I don't want to go here, and I really hate helping Red's monastery. The other platform is over here, which looks kind of vulnerable, but is it crazy to go here? It actually looks like something that might work.
I'm not sure. There's only 2 tiles to connect that are left, and there's 1 tile, I think, to split. So maybe the move was to place it right below Red's monastery. And if Red decides to block, they would also block their monastery meeple. On the other hand, you can also build your city further. If you put it below the monastery, you can build it in the south. Maybe it's also time for meepling some fields. We have 2 9-point fields, but the field at the left has more potential. I don't really like that move. It's restricting the city. Or okay, it's with the field meeple, then I like it. Okay, and it's probably best to put the curve like this. So I'm sure that Adrear calculated that there are less city caps left to finish the city, like with this orientation instead of with the other orientation.
Yeah, one type of mistake that Kirilo is not going to make is this kind of tactical stuff, things with dagger asymmetry, things with tile counting, things with tile orientations in particular, so I'm not even going to, well, I did double check a little bit that it is in fact stronger. We can see case in point that should does draw a tile to complete a city hypothetically, but it now no longer fits. Still 4 quick points for should Adrear. If he were to go here, as I initially suggested, he would have already connected, but you know, who could have known? Instead, we're going to see some sort of blocky move maybe, but I see with one meeple, there's really only so much that you can do, because I was thinking of maybe going and trying to start a farm or something. It's not gonna quite work, but he does find a good defensive move, not allowing should to stack monasteries, forcing to go here for 9 points. Of course, not ideal for Kirilo, that it is the Japanese player who draws the monastery first, but at the very least he's gonna get his meeple back, and a 7-point monastery for Adrear. It's a fantastic draw, and now he solves this increasingly vulnerable road. Honestly, I did not believe this poor road meeple would make it out alive, but it looks like it's gonna be just the case. In the meantime, the field of Kirilo is being also developed, because now this here castle and potentially this here castle through all these squares around the monastery is meeting this here farmer. In the short term, it is a good thing because obviously it is more points, but in the long term, given the fact that should has the meeple advantage, I would be worried about moves exactly like this, exactly these sort of easy field invasions, and maybe should goes here and equalizes the field, and maybe he goes over here and wins the field and somehow manages to have both a big ruin, which is becoming increasingly inaccessible as potential connection tiles are drawn away from the deck, and the big field as well. So Adrear's main hope is to do stuff like this and try to consolidate his meeples as soon as possible. He also now goes for some extravaganza, going for extreme greed and investing in meeple in a city cap. So that's something that you don't normally do at this stage of the game, but his plan is to go here and drop a farmer perhaps if he wants to have these 4 extra points, but he could pay a dear price for that, as should, I believe, can block this meeple permanently with just 1 tile. Yeah, and it looks horrible for Kirilo.
Yeah, I understand the move, but I don't like it. The meeple at the bottom. Why not just finish your road and yeah, of course you can meeple the city cap there. Although I have to count the city caps, I can see quite some city caps are already on the board. I think there's still about 3, 4, 5 left. The reason why he didn't finish his road in the center is because he can still extend it like he's doing now with the tile he just placed. What would you do here as should? You cannot already with this tile join the field. Of course, you will not block your own field entrance. There are still a lot of crossroads available, so it's also not that good to try to block the road, I think. But you have 2 meeples in hand. I would count the city caps here and maybe even start a new city. Or maybe even meeple the 6-point field at the left. For example, with a plain city cap, you can add 3 extra field points to your total. But he's not doing that.
And I do agree with him, yeah. So the reason why he is not so enticed by the 6-point field on the right, just because he has the meeple majority and he can go for the field whenever, basically. And Adrear is not going to spend his last meeple on this here farm, especially since he might need it to fight for the field. I was drawing here earlier because you mentioned that should was not going to block that road, and this is true, but it's an interesting option to explore if you make that move and drop a farmer as well, aiming to actually finish Blue's road and connect like this through a crossroads, which is something that might be necessary since this here invasion is blocked fully, as no starting tiles are remaining. It's actually quite an unlikely sequence of events that somehow should was not able to invade the main field over here, so the hopes of Kirilo are still holding on, despite losing the big ruin. The field is like almost enough, and if he gets this road meeple back, maybe he can go for another 6-point field, but can put these dreams to an end if he actually goes here right now and drops a farmer and tries to connect through the last remaining crossroads, or maybe just ignores everything and takes quick points and tries to outrun the Ukrainian.
Yeah, why not place it 2 tiles below their meeple and meeple the road? So it's not if blue tries to extend the road with 3 additional points, they will also give red some points. There indeed, yes, with a T-shaped crossroad, there are still 2 tiles to connect. To connect the field meeple at the top to the main field. So maybe that's a move to consider. I'm not sure.
Right, yes, of course. This would be back-to-back games with multi-tiled field connection, because with this red guy, I was looking for just the connection over here, right? But then it is still possible to go all the way around here, and maybe this is something that Kirilo overlooked again, although I have to admit that overlooked that too. But the more I think about it, the more, Raf, I think your suggestion is the move to play. So there is going to be another T-shaped crossroads to place over here, and another straight line indeed. Actually, no, this is just the T-shaped. Wait. Yeah, another straight line indeed. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it just lights out, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a good move indeed. Is there some other possible field invasion, maybe from top right? How many monsters are still available? Only 1, I think. So it was also possible to go for field invasion top right, but he decides, okay, 6 points for a field is enough. I think that's his reasoning. So he must be sure that there's no way that blue can connect to the big city. If I count correctly, all big city tiles are gone, and for the Doritos, they are also all gone, so no possible connections there. So I think it's in the bag for red.
Yeah, and so red just figured out that the connection to the main field is not necessary. The main field, of course, is super enticing with 5 completed cities and 15 points, but the 15 points ain't gonna be enough for Adrear, who is going to finish an 8-point city apparently, so that's some nice counting. Now Shoot is going to go for a 7-point monastery, because why wouldn't he? It is easily the best move, and this is exactly what we see. Oh, then apparently Kirilo must have messed this one up. I trusted him a bit too prematurely on the tile counting, but I think this was just a move that threw in the towel, realizing that, the fields is simply not enough. And even if you were to draw the monastery, that I assume would not have been enough for the Ukrainian, and an unlikely loss of the rating favorite, the highest rated player of both teams, gets, I think, slightly outplayed by Should, honestly, just because we looked at that opening and I felt like there was a way out of this. And Raf, as a chess author, there's this term that when you lose a chess game that you never quite get out of the opening. I felt that what we saw was a Carcassonne equivalent of that.
Yeah, I agree. Should played very well today, I have to say. I don't think he made one big mistake or even one inaccuracy, while some moves of Adrear were not my favorite moves, to be honest. Of course, the level of those players is very high, so we should not be too harsh here, but very well played from Shoot.
Indeed.
I'm very curious to see what the other tables have done.
Well, let's go to our second favorite. So players are exchanging pleasantries. In the meantime, the score is 1-1 in the match, as Smile Hyphen has predictably and quite rapidly taken care of Zita Kuto traps. Snow Island is surprisingly ahead 1-0 against Baziluk, and Zaharik is delivering against Yguru Y. Fan Alex N is ahead against Keithra, so we have a lot of teeny tiny upsets. And table 5 it is for us. Just wanted to address one thing that you said. Typically, I do like to criticize stronger players a little bit harder because I know Kirillov's usual playing strength, and I felt that in a couple of places it was a time management issue, like for example with that parallel city cap move in the first game. I think he could have found Shud's idea of connecting to the main field through multiple tiles. So it's not a matter of being a great player overall, it's a matter of being a great player right here, right now in this match.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, some very interesting upsets. So what is the score looking now? I think it's slightly in favor of Yguru, I would think. Or am I mistaken?
Do you mean the match score or the score in the duel that's on the screen right now?
Okay, I can see the screen, of course. Yes. So it's quite equal.
Yes, so the second game between Yguru and Zaharik has just finished, and it looks good on the scoreboard for Yguru, which is great for our neutral fans, because this would mean that we're headed into a decider, and yes, this is exactly the case, as a convincing win with a 22-point difference leaves the Japanese master a chance, and also a nice acquisition of 9 additional rating points. So the decider on table 5, possibly one and likely one which is going to decide the outcome of the entire match, is starting in around 1 minute.
Yes, very excited for that.
So just to address a comment, Elias is saying, did Red blunder the way he grew the city, exposing it to a cap plus Dorito invasion? I think Raf and I both have missed that moment potentially, but if I remember that threats were not that many, and I assume that Shud must have calculated that if Adrear were to invade that big monstrosity, then Adrear would need to invest his last meeple and just not score enough with his last couple of tiles. So I don't seem to think that Shud did anything particularly outrageous there. But maybe, Raf, you remember that situation a little bit better than I do.
No, I don't. I have very bad short-term memory, so no.
Well, if anything, this is a good thing because we don't need to remember the other games. We just need to focus on this one, complete blank slate, 1 for Zaharik, 1 for Yguru Y. Whoever wins this one decides the duel and very, very possibly the match. It's Sergey who's playing the red meeples and already places 1 in a 4-point city. Ahead on the scoreboard, Yguru starts a new city with a shielded tile. Zaharik immediately enters into a standard mini battle, looping the road into the city. Yguru covers it up on one side. Zaharik blocks the city, still leaving 3 tiles that left to fit over here. Actually, a move he should have thought for a little bit longer in my view, because there are some ways how it can go south for the player with the red meeples. In any case, so some tension over here in the position at the bottom, but it is blue who gets the first 4-point monastery of the game. Excellent placement, controlling this here square, which can be used for indirect defense. So imagine if Zaharik takes a triangle over here, then suddenly Yguru can go over here and develop his monastery and also make it a bit harder to block that square fully. In the meantime, Zaharik first of all wants to make this here city of Yguru vulnerable, making sure that he needs the same type of tile in 2 places. Some road moves on the left with an awkward quadruple road tile. Actually, it's not that awkward, it's pretty good for blue. So despite the fact that red is ahead on the scoreboard and is the starting player, I do like the blue's position just because of these here little teeny tiny developments.
Yes, and also because they have a monastery, they can stack monasteries. That's also a very important feature to have. And there it is. Monastery, I think you place it at the top. Yes, exactly, with the road to the right, just like that. So you can also benefit from the road. And you still have one extra monastery spot top left of your monastery cluster, in case you want to exploit that.
Yeah, the position just keeps getting better for Yguru, so this is a great tile for Zaharik to even it out a little bit. The reason why I am normally not a fan of blocking like this, because the way it goes south is that there's some runouts where blue gets to finish this 8-point city and red's road actually gets stuck. So fortunately, with some effort and a tile investment, red made sure that this worst case scenario is not going to happen. We're an equal 3 versus 3 mini battle. Very equal on the scoreboard. Zaharik with a couple of threats to finish city, but Yguru with these monastery monstrosities. And also, Zaharik, I think, inadvertently, by starting a new city in the wrong place. Actually, no, he didn't really have that many options, but I think Zaharik inadvertently created a 6-point road that goes through these monasteries by using this road end, and it's something that red could pay a price for.
Yeah, and I was going through the exact same thought process. I was thinking, okay, this is the wrong place. For the exact same reason, you are pre-building a 6-point road, but he really has no other options. You cannot go there, for example, because it's hard to finish a city. I think you cannot go in the south because you will restrict your own city probably next move. So this is the way to go, and he gets the same tile once again. So maybe you can restrict one of those monasteries a little bit, and that's the thing he also does. You're restricting it to starting tiles. Still 2 starting tiles are left, so 25% chance more or less for blue to get it to fill in the gap. But he will also score a lot of points with it in case he fills the gap. We will probably take 4 points for the city, or maybe even meeple a 5-point or 4-point road with the potential to have 6 points.
Yeah, maybe the road is a bit too much, because then you would be just really doubling down on this tile, and there's some situations where you get the road, but then you still lose because it's a long wait, and then red can do something with a temporary meeple advantage. For example, now Zaharik should definitely easily drop a farmer here. I'm pretty sure he knows. Even though it's only a 3-point field, then if a starting tile is drawn, then the field is going to be expanded to at least 9. So the Ukrainian, of course, knows his stuff. And the reason why I have started becoming to be a better fan of this move, the more and more I look about it, is because, first of all, of the 25% chance that it works totally, and Yguru just stays without 2 meeples for the rest of the game. Then, if Yguru does get the starting tile after waiting for a while, we're actually not giving him any extra points, because he's not going to take 4 points for the city cap, as he will take 6 points for this road instead. And whilst Sergey is building up cities and dropping these farmers and still enjoying his temper meeple advantage, he now is ahead on the scoreboard, and Yguru hasn't really done much other than building up the city on the left, which could turn into something powerful, but Zaharik will probably have enough resources to go here or here and create a platform to prevent the worst case scenario from happening.
Yeah, and here maybe I would try to pre-build another monastery spot, although that could also be taken for your opponent. No, I think you don't launch an attack on the city of red here, because this tile is too valuable. It's better to take 2 quick points, indeed, like he does. And now red can probably do the same, take 2 quick points, or maybe an interesting move could be to restrict the monastery a little bit. Not really restricting it, but just to make sure that he cannot finish the monastery with another monastery.
Sergey decides that it is not worth the 2-point sacrifice. plays sort of classical moves. And it does make sense to do in his position, like when you have a scoreboard lead. You actually don't want to play too many spatial moves, because when you have a scoreboard lead, one win condition that you can possibly have is just ignoring your opponent's threats, whether these are monasteries, fields, or even big cities, and just trying to outrun everything. But just as I say this, you've been quite prescient, Raf, as Yguru gets a fantastic monastery tile. So now I wonder if your move would have been a little bit better. Of course, hindsight is 2020, and Zaharik did get the 2 points, so he did get something out of it. But the position is getting better for Yguru, who, by the way, a few moves ago, of course, quite wisely equalized the red farmer by dropping one of his own.
Yeah, and it's not only because it prevents a monastery from being taken there, but also there were not that many tiles that could fit there. Only one plain city cap and only one, how do we call it? Dorito tile?
Dorito, yeah.
And two splitter tiles, of course. Also, I don't like the way that blue is building their big city. I would have placed the that tile. I would have placed it somewhere else, maybe one square higher. And the reasoning is there are still splitter tiles left, and I would try to prevent my opponent from invading from multiple sides, and also prevent it from invading with the splitter tile. I don't know if that's correct, my reasoning there, but would you have done the same?
I probably would have done the same as Yguru did, simply because of the fact that there's still 4 big tiles remaining. Because these cities can be ideal to complete with a pattern like this. And also, he is actually moving towards neutralizing with the splitter threat. If he just to draw one more Dorito tile, he can go here instead. And then he can set up the completion of the city with 2 cows, for example, or something like this, or even 2 Doritos if push comes to shove. So I do like the creation of this threat at the very least, and since there are 2 splitters remaining, there's some obscure scenarios, how maybe Zaharik gets 1 splitter here, and we draw another one just to split him back, and then to have only 1 tile remaining to finish our city. Sadly, none of that is going to matter, as Zaharik, as foretold, build up a invasion platform, then successfully invaded, so the city at the bottom is no longer such a big threat. But again, if a splitter is drawn, this time now on blue's side, then blue can threaten actually some nastiness at the bottom city still. So red still has some work to do in order to go over here. Now a couple of interesting moves. Now Yguru was not able to score quick points, so he instead built up what's soon going to become shared field, also build up his monastery. And Zaharik makes a move which I severely dislike, not because it's a bad move. I mean, it makes sense to protect his city from invasion, but man, why, if you're gonna go the scoring route, if you're gonna take 2 points instead of listening to Raf and going for a second move, instead of going for the spatial move, why not double down? Why not take this curve, go over here, meeple a 6-point road potentially, and with this tile that you just drew, get yourself 6 easy points and a meeple back. I do think that it's an opportunity, a scoring opportunity that may have been not consciously chosen against by the Ukrainian player, but plainly possibly overlooked.
Yeah, and it could be the case because maybe blue played an unexpected move, and what sometimes happens to me is that you're looking at your own tile and you're thinking, okay, what is the best thing I can do? And suddenly your opponent makes a move, you don't expect it, but you don't reconsider your thoughts. So, and of course, without the road being ended at the top, it's certainly not a good move if you do it like that. If you have the same move, when you place your meeple on the curve there. So maybe that's the reason why he didn't see it.
Yeah, and he must have thought about it now, because I think then he realized, just based on his timing, it seems to me that yeah, now this road is really not that great, and then he just realized that also bigger fish to fry in the position, so he goes for another 6-point farmer over here, basically anticipating that the farms are going to unite with all of these two starting tiles being eventually drawn by one of the parties, and he's just trying to get in on the field a little bit early. Yguru recognizes this and drops a 6-point farmer of his own. It's quite an interesting situation here. It's also interesting that it doesn't make sense for either party to block, because I assume a move that many would have considered, and Sergei must have considered, is going over here and trying to block this city cap. That doesn't quite work because there are still 3 daggers remaining, and for the same reason, going over here doesn't work from blue's side because there's still 3 daggers remaining that way.
Yeah, but also for the same reason, you can now go again for the long road, for the 6-point road, because there are still 3 daggers remaining, and not only 3 daggers, but also 3 crossroads, and also a lot of curves. 4, I think. So I would definitely have done that here.
From Zaharik's perspective, it definitely makes sense, although it's a scary, scary place to invest your meeple, and maybe he didn't want to need the same dagger in 2 places, as Yguru does restrict the city, which in this case makes sense because there was no better use for this straight line. Zaharik is not going to finish it immediately with the splitter tile, so the Japanese player is getting some immediate value, of course looking to later on go here and try to block this. And now red is facing a difficult decision. The natural move is sort of to score 4 points over here, but I hate to do that. I hate helping the Monastery of Blue so much. So he might even choose to do something like this and try to restrict the square even further, given the fact that we're running so short on vanilla city cap tiles. But he goes instead for the big city, which is the content move, but also a move which makes a lot of sense, going for one of the 4 remaining big tiles, the 3 triples and 1 quadruple, and possibly trying to not only invade the city, which he did right now, and he's now overrunning it, and he's scoring 14 points with 2 versus 1 meeple majority, but he's also 3 tiles away from completing it, and there are enough Dorito tiles remaining to deliver this decisive disaster scenario from blue's perspective, and so blue does not even bother finishing his monastery, which is a bit weird to me. I think he still should have done it, and instead he's trying to create another invasion platform against the city just because how dangerous it is. Zaharik now needs to make a strategic decision. Either just discard this tile and preserve the chances of completing the city, or be okay with the city being a ruin and go over here simply with the purpose of trying to cover up some invasion squares and developing the city as a ruin. Now, based on Sergei's move, it seems to me that he still wants to threaten the completion of the city, which might work because Yguru is facing an extremely difficult decision, which turns out not to be extremely difficult. He makes the natural move, unites all the fields, takes 6 points for the road, finishes a monastery, is ahead 15 points on the scoreboard. Zaharik with a splitter is surely going to place next to his big city and trying to run for the completion. But there are 5 possible ways of doing this, and I have no idea at the moment which one is correct. He goes for the one at the bottom, but this allows Yguru a very easy blocking move.
Exactly. I didn't think he would have gone for that one. I certainly would have put it at the bottom. Even, no, let's go 1 or 2 moves back. I would have just added 2 points to my big city and make it a ruin. Exactly because of this reason. There were not a lot of tiles left that fit in that square at the bottom. The square or the spot that he just filled. So that's the reason why he put the splitter tile there. But you could have done maybe something else with your splitter tile. I don't know. Close the city at the top, or connect your fields, or because you're for example now with that crossroad you are blocking off that blue meeple. So you still have to connect your red meeples together to join for the big field.
I take it that Zaharik figures he can do that with the curve because there's still 3 of those remaining. And I do at least conceptually like his idea of taking 1 point and just preserving the threat of completion in the city, because at least it forced a reaction out of Yguru. It forced him to go over here, which now can be result in his 1 point meeple getting blocked, but not right now, as it is the most important from his perspective to protect the city, since still 2 daggers are remaining there. In the meantime, Yguru gets one of the curves and finishes his monastery, getting more firepower to fight for the field, which may not even be necessary based on Zaharik's advantage on the scoreboard, but a lovely scoring tile for the Ukrainian. I'm pretty sure 6 point here is going to be the move, unless there is some kind of blocking option over here, but it doesn't really work. No, 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 come on, Sergey. You can't sacrifice 12 points. It's an 11-point sacrifice, and Sergey's really slipping here. It breaks my heart absolutely to see this sort of move. He sacrifices a 6-point city, allows a 6-point city for Yguru, only for a chance to block this invasion here with a 50-50 chance. There's still 1 Dorito left with a road that fits here, and it's just a completely needless equity sacrifice, which is absolutely going to cost Sergey this duel and possibly the match for the team.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, indeed. It's a 12-point swing, and he's protecting more or less 12-point big city. So, yeah, he should have taken more time to reconsider, I think. He still has more than 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whenever we talk about some imprecisions or in this case, really serious mistakes, I think one thing that I take from the Ukrainian team is like some time management issues, because this was a clearly rushed move. Like, it's a move, if you are even considering making that sacrifice, then you really go through the tiles carefully. You also go through the remaining city caps to figure out what's the chance that your opponent is going to take this 6-point city instead of you. You also count up the points to impact the move. You basically see if saving 14 points on the left is worth the 50. No, like, of course it isn't worth it, but the math is this. So you're possibly saving 16 points on the left with a 50% chance, right? Because there's still 1 tile that Yguru can draw. And so 14 times 50% is 7 points. So this move has an expected value of 7 points. And, you know, you do sacrifice 12. So it's like, nah, it's quite easy to figure out why it just doesn't work in the long run. But whilst Yguru is thinking what to do with this curve, which at this point even doesn't matter that much, I think that it is possible that, based on the way that Ukrainians are playing, and it seems that they have a lot of respect for the Japanese team, also based on the fact that they've lined up all their 5 strongest players, which is not always what teams to do. Teams sometimes tend to have an element of surprise or vary things. Ukrainians just went with the 5 truly best. It seems to me that maybe they're, I don't know, like, respect the Japanese players a bit too much, to the point that it becomes a bit of fear, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it could be the case. On the other hand, don't think Red has lost here. He still can make a turnaround. Actually, if you count all the points, I don't think he's all that much behind. Of course, there are still 2 crossroads, I think, to connect the fields in the bottom. So that's what he has to avoid. He has to avoid his big city from being connected to, or he has to avoid the invasion from blue, and he has to go for his own city at the right. If it's still possible to finish that one, I think there's still 1 tile left to do so. Oh, but I don't like that move from blue at all. He is trying to go for a field invasion via a monastery with a road. He got the monastery with the road. But no, I don't think that's correct. You could have done anything else, I think, with that. Still a lot of curvy tiles were in the deck. 2 crossroads, I think 3 or 4 curvy other tiles. So why not just go for a 4-point loop? I think. Get a meeple back and invest the meeple in a 3-point field at the end of the game and secure the victory.
I actually do like Ygur's move quite a bit, and I think it has a lot to do with just general board awareness, because he realized that Zaharik has a key tile here, which he can use to deny Ygur's invasion, and it kind of works. So at the very least, this 12-point sacrifice for Zaharik wasn't like entirely for nothing, although it kind of still was, because Yguru is yet to have drawn an invasion tile over here in any case, and Zaharik could have drawn an invasion here. And also, from Yguru's perspective, he knows that he has these curves with which he can invade, and just by going over here, he adds himself one other key tile that he can use to just create threats. And the sacrifice of a meeple here is not such a big deal because he's scoring 3 points already, and he's one tile away from going for a 6-point field, assuming that Zaharik finishes his city on the right. So I do believe that this move makes more sense and has approximately this type of thought behind this, but I wonder if we can get a commentary after from one of the Japanese players or possibly the Yguru himself. In the meantime, some blocking attempts are being made against the farming invasion at the bottom, and they're unsuccessful, as not only Yguru manages to protect that square towards one of the 2 remaining crossroads, which is almost guaranteed at this point. Actually, Zaharik has only what was that? 16% chance, so 1 in 6, of drawing both of these crossroads, which is not his ideal scenario in any case, because he also wants this dagger. So Zaharik cannot have it all, your good old Dirk Clay principle. He wants the city cap and the 2 crossroads. And yeah, after this here defense, I don't even know what we do here as red, if we do even have a win. Do we maybe just drop a farmer here and try to reconnect to the field with one of the 2 crossroads? So something like we go for the 1 in 12 chance of going here, dropping a farmer, then getting a dagger tile here to get our city back, and then getting a crossroad tiles to connect to the field to get 4 more points, and hope that our opponent makes a mistake and connects over here as well, just burning his meeple in a losing field fight.
Yeah, but for that reason, I think in case I would have got the crossroad as blue, I would just take the 4 points at the top, let the big field for red, because I don't think blue needs those points to win the game. And exactly this scenario is happening. So now I think the biggest mistake is to go for a 4-point loop at the bottom. You can better do something else. Take 3-point road, or maybe take the 4-point loop at the top. I have to count points here, but I think that's better. You could even, for example, take 3 points there, or prolong your field at the right to make it 3 extra points in case Zaharik gets this exact tile.
Oh, that's dirty. So he
Yes.
follows your advice to the T, but he also gets the other crossroads and equalizes the field. All this has to hurt so hard. Not that it was necessary, but Zaharik still went for his best option, I believe. He did get almost the sequence. He gets the dagger initially, but instead of getting the second crossroads and hoping for blue's mistake over here, not only did blue not make a mistake, but he also drew both of the connection tiles, and the score is going to be quite obscene in this one.
Yeah, this is definitely game over. And will this be the last game of the duel, or of the match? Yes, it will be. So we have a winner. We have the first finalist of this tournament.
And as predicted, this indeed is going to be the match decider. Zaharik takes a 6-point field, and this is going to be heartbreak for Ukraine, who has had an absolutely excellent 3 years or so building up their community, having all these masters. Ukraine is still the highest rated team in the entire tournament. They have 9 masters on their roster, 12 for the country in total. But you know, your world champions are world champions. Like, Japan knows when to deliver when it matters most, and this is exactly what we saw here. 3-2 win, of course, a clutch match, and a huge sigh of relief for our Japanese fans here. Only a 4-point win, so you were right, Raf, in the sense that this was a little bit closer than I initially thought it was.
It's 14, eh? 14.
Oh, 14, 14, yes, yes, yes. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and I wonder, if you go back to the final situation, if the crossroads are the other way around, if it's still a win for the Japanese.
Let's see about this. So you mean the final tile, if it's different, right?
The final crossroad.
The final crossroads. Okay.
The last one.
Yeah, so with this move here, Blue scored, well, actually quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's still a win. Yeah, because he only scored 12 extra for connecting to this field. And if Blue were to get the city cap, Blue just would have gone here for this 6-point field. Zaharik would have scored 5 here. And yeah, this just would not have been enough for the Ukrainian. But it only would have been a win by a couple of points, which also means that if Blue were to make the mistake of actually connecting to the field with the first crossroads, and if Zaharik were to get his decided tile draw of going over here and then over here, in that case, the Ukrainian would win, because Yguru would also burn this meeple and not get the 6 points for these here 2 cities.
Yes. And that's why these players are at the rating of 6, 7, 800 elo, because they can find such a move. Players of 500, 600 might screw it up here still, including myself in some games, I admit. But very well deserved victory for Japan, and I'm really looking forward to their 5th final. Then, did they win all finals they played, or?
They did win all finals they played, yeah. The one year, the fluke year they didn't win, they lost against China in the quarterfinals in 2023, and all the other years they won again. And they will be playing in the final against somebody they have not played before, because we have the other semifinals tomorrow. We have, of course, Chile versus Poland, and so this will be a new test for Japan to thwart another challenger. They did successfully do this today. Ukraine is still going to fight for the 3rd place, of course, and whoever they fight against, Ukraine is going to be favorite in the bronze medal match. So we'll be following them with excitement. But for now, the most important thing that we're going to do is we're going to congratulate Team Japan and all the Japanese fans for a clutch win. So all rise for the national anthem of Japan. Congratulations again to Team Japan for staying on top yet again. And the final thing that remains for us is just to do a little bit of preview for the upcoming matches. Now, the semifinals tomorrow, which is going to happen at 1600 UTC, is going to be between Chile and Poland, as said before. So I don't think we have the lineups just yet, but who do you think is the favorite, Raf? Poland or Chile?
Ooh, haven't thought about that one yet. So for Poland, it's MTU probably, and help me out with the player names.
MTU and UI Scudi.
Right.
The two main ones, yeah.
And for Chile?
For Chile, that's the thing. It's a bit more evenly distributed. So they have actually 4.5 masters, kind of. Maybe Vaineria, Claudio Jorquera, Adan Lazares. So they just have like a very high average level of players of like 600 and above consistently.
Interesting. I think if one table of Poland can maybe have an upset against their Chilean opponents, they can. They have the best chance. Although Vaniria, for example, I lost against him for the Mind Sports Olympiad. Was it 2023? I think.
Yes.
For the place in the top. Or in the finals, it was even. Yeah. So very interesting to see what he is capable to do in this tournament.
And the thing about Vaineria is, I know he's practicing a lot recently. He's analyzing a lot of his games. And he's not so much only concerned about his own level of play. He's investing a lot into coaching the team. He is thinking quite deeply about which players to line up. And one of his most impressive choices was actually to not line up himself in the first round of playoffs against Italy, which led to Chile's win. So, having that humility, knowing when to back up, and then going back in the quarterfinals against the United States, where he did line himself up and they won again, also with the help of Vaineria, who won his duel 2-0 against Zach Bell, I believe that was. So definitely, they are in a very hot shape as a team for sure. Poland, of course, with their two superstars, so could inflict some damage, and it's possible that the scenario that you're describing might unfold. So it's really depending on whether Poland can deliver an upset on one of those other tables or not.
Yeah, and either way, they will have a hell of a difficult next round if it's for third place or first place, because Japan and Ukraine are, in my opinion, the two strongest teams of this tournament so far, at least. And they also have the strongest lineups, the strongest players. 4 of those players that play today are currently in the top 20 of the ELO ranking. So very strong field today.
Yeah, Poland versus Ukraine would actually be a very interesting match to watch, because these would be countries with very similar playing styles, I guess, and they have a bit of history from the European Championship. Chile versus Japan would be also very fun, just because these teams haven't played that much. It would be maybe not so much fun in terms of scheduling, because I believe they might schedule their match for a time which is a bit inconvenient for Europeans, but it's just something that I'm gonna live with. I am planning to stream the finals pretty much almost no matter what. So this is what is going to be expected, really. Poland against Chile. Tune in tomorrow. And then that's going to be it. Just before we leave, of course, the usual reminder to meeple the like button for the algorithm to get more people to experience the joys of competitive Carcassonne. And subscribe for more competitive Carcassonne content like this, unless you already have done so. Yeah, thank you so much for being with me here, Raf, as usual.
It was a pleasure. I'm sorry for the sound issues in the beginning, but I think it will be good now for the future.
It was alright. It was alright. We got the sound when it matters for your actual insights. Alrighty, then thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.